Hi, again. Presumably you've watched the other videos before this one, but I don't know. So, I'm going to do the Habitats and Biomes video, presentation, whatever you want to call it. Sun setting behind me. I'm hot, so I'm all like red. I am in my sunroom, so I can be out of the way from everybody else. And I kind of wish I had opened the windows because it is getting really hot. And yeah, there you go. So, I'm going to race through this kind of like this. I know some of the stuff you're not going to be able to see, and I'm going to tell you that in just a moment. But I wanted to try to cover this real quick. So, habitat's place where a particular animal or a plant species lives. It's like a neighborhood in nature, and an artificial habitat is a man-made place. So like if you see an artificial lake, that would be an artificial habitat. Our houses are artificial habitats because I live in this house, but it's not natural. So there you go. Now, what does an organism need in a habitat? Shelter, food, and water. I have shelter. I have water. I already ate earlier, so don't have that right now. But that's the main things we need. So, again, your habitat, you're going to have shelter, whether it is a dorm, hopefully not this year, apartment, house, trailer, I don't know, tent, van, whatever. You've got your own shelter, and then water and food. You need all of these in order to survive. So a biome is a naturally occurring community of flora and fauna. Flora would be the plants, fauna would be the animals, occupying a major habitat. So biomes are going to be things like deserts and forests and oceans and stuff like that. Now, this picture right here, this is trying to show you the various areas of the world's biomes. It's color-coded, and typically in this PowerPoint, it's going to be down here in the corner somewhere. However, because I am doing this with my picture down in the corner, I will be covering up where this exact map is. The PowerPoint is still online, so you can always look at the PowerPoint if you really, really, really want to see the map with the stuff. It's there, it's just, I'm covering it. Sorry. So we have our tropical rainforest. This is the Earth's most complex land biome. Found near the equator, little variation in temperatures. They don't have like a fall, a spring, and a summer and a winter. It's just pretty much similar all year round. Abiotic factors. Abiotic means non-living. Biotic factors means living. So B-I-O, bio means life. So that's the way to remember this. Abiotic, non-living. High biodiversity and biomass. Hot and moist. Great for bacteria and stuff. It has less than 1 centimeter of topsoil, but about 100 inches of a year of rainfall. Notice it says of rainfall. Throughout the rest of this, you're going to see where I say how much it is of precipitation. Because most other areas, you also have things like fog and hail and snow and sleet and stuff like that. The rainforest, nope, you pretty much just get rainfall. We have adaptations. Throughout here, I'm not going to read every one of these. I'm just going to pick out a couple of real quick. And yes, that is my name underneath those pictures, because I believe in giving credit where credit is due, and these are my pictures. These are taken from the rainforest in Belize. So I have this thing about Belize, and in the previous presentation, the overview, timeline overview, I talk a little bit about Belize because I love that country. Anyway, adaptations, the plants, I figured out how to grow in different layers because there's a whole lot in a small amount of space, and the sunlight, the top of it gets a lot of sunlight, the bottom does not, so they have adapted for how to do that. The animals have also adapted, so they live in all different layers as well, and camouflage is common, like this guy right here. You can see him, but he does kind of blend in a little bit. Threats to the tropical rainforest. Yep, people. People are the main threat right there. And it's because we tend to, I don't mean me, but I mean humanity, chopping down the trees, clearing it out. There are a whole lot of issues where they are doing clear cutting, they're burning and stuff like that in order to make more space to raise livestock for people to eat, things of that sort. So a lot of bad stuff. Deciduous forest. For some reason, I always want to say deciduous, but I don't think that's right. I mispronounce things all the time. I know. I'm sorry. So don't quote me on things on how to say it unless I say, this is definitely how you say it. If I don't tell you that, please just know I'm just doing the best. I suck at this a lot. Anyway, much of the human population lives in this biome. This is where we live. Georgia is here. Florida is here. South and North Carolina are here. Pretty much anywhere that you know where there's a whole bunch of trees that have leaves. I don't mean pine. I mean actual leaves, the stuff that changes colors and drops from the trees in the fall. Those are these types of forests. Here, 300, listen to me, 30 to 100 inches a year in all forms of precipitation because we have a lot of different types. Adaptations, we have really cool different plants. And our trees adapt to the varied climate by becoming dormant in winter. This means, like I said a moment ago, the leaves change colors, drop off, and it's kind of like the trees go to sleep until they know they're going to have the proper amount of sunlight again. And then they grow leaves back in order to continue to conduct photosynthesis. Our animals have adapted in different ways. They eat from different layers of the forest, and anyone who has a pet knows that their fur gets thicker in the winter in order to help keep them warm, but then in the summer they shed it everywhere and you find hair all over the place. Threats, guess what? People. A lot of people want to live in these areas, and so they just keep on clearing the land in order to build more housing. We also use up a lot of stuff. There's a lot of pollution here. We don't really have a renewable system. We just keep destroying stuff and putting more housing for people. Then we have this forest. We have 3 different names for it. It's only in the northern hemisphere, so north of the US. Abiotic factors. Winters very long and cold, averages about 100 inches a year of precipitation, so similar to the rainforest. But here it's mostly snow, not a lot of rain because it is too cold, with the exception of, I mentioned before, kind of on fire in certain areas. Okay, adaptations, the plants. The roots are very long in order to anchor the trees, and they have more of the needles or very waxy type leaves in order to handle the lessened sun. Animals adapt for cold winters. These guys burrow and hibernate and that kind of thing. Threats, it's people, pollution, mining, and that kind of thing. So we're kind of just, killing it. Savannas, also known as the tropical grasslands. This contains the greatest number of grazing animals on Earth, and it's found in the tropics near the equator. This is some really cool crap. The abiotic factors, rainy and dry season. It can be anywhere from 25 inches to 150 inches per year precipitation. Fire plays a large role in this ecosystem. Without the fire rushing through to clear stuff out, certain things won't grow. As in some of the plants, the fire goes through and the intensity of the fire is what makes them pop open. The seed pods pop so they can actually grow new plants. It's pretty cool. Basically, think of the Lion King. When Scar takes over and everyone's like, ah! And it's all dried up and everyone's pointing out, oh my gosh, he's evil. Notice there's nothing here. And then there's the big fight. And during the big fight, you've got the lightning and then the big storm and then everything fills back up. That's actually how it works. Not necessarily the fight between Scar and Simba, but same kind of thing. And what's really cool is right down here, animals, they reproduce during the rainy season. This means if it doesn't rain enough, they just don't reproduce because it takes energy to grow life. And so if there's not enough water to grow the food to sustain the baby, the animals have no mating season, because all that would happen is they would all die anyway. So without the rainy season, there is no mating season. I think it's kind of interesting. Threats to the savanna. People. I'm not saying all people are bad, but people sure as heck cause a lot of damage. So here, a lot of it is hunting, destruction, invasive species. Yeah. The steppe, also known as dry, cold grasslands, found in all of the continents except Australia and Antarctica. Abiotic factors. Mountains often play a role in climate characteristics, and there is less than 50 inches a year of precipitation. Plants, not super tall, little clumps. Animals, a bunch of them migrate. Threats. Can you guess? I think the picture says it all. This one. Yep, I don't say this one either. Just so you know, feel free to say it yourself. Say it out loud. I'll pretend you did, and I'll go, oh, that's really good. Or if you ever watched Mr. Rogers as a kid. I mean, obviously, you guys weren't. He wasn't on TV when you were kids, but maybe you watched a special on him. He used to say, can you say? Good. I knew you could. I was never good at that because I always messed up the words anyway. But anyway, here you go. Abiotic factors. Hot, dry summers, mild, wet winters, very slight variations in the seasonal temperatures. Adaptations. Plants not super big, small trees. It's another area where the fire needs to come through. The plants tend to have an oily cover on the leaves or whatever, so when the fire goes through, that helps protect them and helps them hold tight. Then that way only the weakest ones burn and clear out, leaving the resources for the others. Animals also tend to camouflage, avoid predation. Their diets change depending on the season, and I think that's kind of cool. Threats, of course, it's people, mostly for human development, because a lot of people want to live in these areas because it's gorgeous, like absolutely gorgeous. But the more people who live there, the more of the gorgeousness we destroy in order to make nice, comfy homes. And we have our desert, hot and dry and cold deserts. There's two different types of deserts. The issue with the desert is it has less than 10 inches a year of rain. Minerals are not deep in the soil, and it's too dry for decay. That's the one I find the most fascinating. Too dry for decay. This means things do not rot. They just dry out. So anyone who's ever gone for a walk in the southeast, we are humid as all get out. We know this. Everybody has seen and smelled roadkill. You don't have that there. If there is roadkill, it just desiccates. It just dries out. All the moisture leaves. You don't have that smell to it. Gross, but kind of fascinating. Adaptations. The plants have evolved to try to keep things from munching on them into taking their liquid. They do what they can to protect and hold on to whatever moisture they have. Animals get their water from the food because it's not like there's big puddles of water out there for them to drink. They have huge ears. Think of a bunny. It's pretty cool because the big ears like that, it's in order to help them cool off, because as the blood flows through the ears, it's cooled off by the air, so then the cooler blood goes back into the body in order to help them regulate their temperature. And the animals tend to be smaller. They're smaller because less surface area helps them stay a little bit cooler. Threats to the desert. Oh yeah, it's people. A lot of it's development for places to live. A lot of it is where people just take some of the plants and stuff and move them because they think it's pretty, but a big part is that whole recreational stuff. A lot of people will say, but look, there's nothing out here. But if you read the slide previously, I know I didn't read it out loud, but most of the animals tend to burrow during the day, and they're out and about at night because if they burrow during the day, it protects them from the heat of the sun. So if you go out here driving all over the place, you're pretty much destroying all their homes and possibly killing them while they're under the dirt and you never even knew they were there. Then we have the tundra. About 20% of the Earth's surface circumnavigating the North Pole, so just all around up at the top. This is the most fragile biome on the planet. Very slow to recover from damage. It has less than 25 inches a year of precipitation. The temperature is rarely higher than 10 degrees Celsius, permafrost layer, and a short growing season. The plants are very tiny, and the animals have small ears, pretty much the opposite of the ones in the desert. Small ears to help keep them warm, nice insulated thick coat, that kind of thing. People, we're killing it. If you don't want to just count the global warming, the bringing up the overall temperature, which is causing its own issues, our desire for oil. We have spilled so much oil here and poisoned and destroyed a lot, like a lot. Seriously, Google it. You'll be amazed at all the stuff you never knew. Then we have our water biomes, and I'm going to be like this for the water biomes, not because I don't like them. I friggin' love the water ones, but it's getting late. You can tell that by looking behind me, and I'm kind of just wanting to be done. Anyway, we have ponds and lakes, marshes, swamps and bogs, rivers, estuaries, coral reef, and ocean. So ponds and lakes, they're considered freshwater, which means they have less than 0.5 parts per thousand of salinity, of salt in the water. Lakes are the deepest of the freshwater systems. They're fed by an underground aquifer or a stream. This is the big deal. A lake is continuously getting water put into it. A pond does not. The pond only gets filled by rainfall or somebody with a hose, I guess. So that is the biggest thing if you want to know the difference between them. The lake is constantly being replenished with water from elsewhere. A pond is not. These are just different layers for the lakes and ponds. Biggest threat, of course, people. Pollution. I'm sure you have known plenty of people or have seen people just toss something out the window. People on a boat, a lot of them will just toss it over because they don't feel like taking their garbage somewhere. There is no special ferry that goes up and picks it all up. It stays in there, and in a little while you're going to see that's also part of the issue with the ocean because the rivers lead into the oceans. The lakes lead to the rivers most of the time, which then lead to the oceans. It's a long chain reaction. Marshes, brackish and freshwater. Brackish means it has some salt. Freshwater, we've already talked about freshwater. The big thing here is that it is a carbon sink. Marshes pull in so much the carbon dioxide and it kind of like eats it up, and then it's giving us the oxygen. These help regulate our air, so they're very important. Swamps and bogs, same kind of thing. Large trees and shrubs in the swamps, you have more of a moss in the bog. Again, these are here for a reason. A lot of people just think they're gross, but they're important. The biggest threat, a lot of times for a while, people were just trying to clear it out and fill it up so they could use the land for other things. We are paying the price for this now. If you look at what's happening in a lot of South Georgia and in Florida, where the schools were getting flooded on a regular basis, different areas, because people are finding out that nature knew what she wanted and humanity can't. Humanity does not know better. And you don't need to be filling it in. They're the way they are for a reason. And so there you go. Rivers. We have so many different types of ecosystems for the rivers because you have different areas like where it's nice and slow. You've got it where it's going around a curve. You've got it where it's speeding up right by the edge, that kind of thing. So there's a whole bunch. And of course our threats. People, pollution. Some of it's from factories. Some of it's from people just throwing junk out there. Estuaries, I love estuaries. Estuaries is where the fresh water and the salt water meet, so it is this area right here. In grad school, I studied something called the Cryptolevius marmoratus, which is the mangrove killifish, and that's mostly where they live, right there. Totally suggest you look up the killifish. You can actually just type in Kmar, and you can normally find stuff. They're fascinating. The other thing that's really cool, as I record this, this is the last day of Shark Week. It's all wrapped up now. And I haven't finished catching up on all the shows, but they probably mentioned the bull shark at some point. The bull shark lives in the ocean, but they come up here and they can go woo all up in here. And so you can be way over here and see a shark because of the estuary. And a lot of hammerheads actually have their babies right here too. So I think that's pretty cool. Threats are people because it's a really cool area, and so there's a lot of stuff that happens right around the estuary, which will then, yeah. Then we have our coral reef. Coral reef is absolutely gorgeous. Very, very delicate. We have a whole thing just about the coral reef later if you want. Threats, of course, us. If it's too hot or too cold, animals can't live there and create the limestone, which makes the coral what it is. Scuba diving can damage it if you touch the reef, step on it, that kind of thing. And pollution can cloud the water, which will keep the sunlight from reaching the plant portion, so photosynthesis will not occur, and then it dies. When the coral reef dies, there's nowhere for all of these animals. I'd like to share this one because the lionfish is a fascinating one, and I always recommend people look this stuff up. The lionfish is something that a lot of people have gotten in order to put in their aquariums because they look really cool. They are also poisonous. I have to think for a moment because there's poisonous and toxic. No, venomous. Venomous is a better word. If you step on them, you can get poisoned. You can eat them and get poisoned if you don't know how to process them, but you can actually do them right. So the state of Florida actually had cookbooks that they put out there so you could learn how to process and eat them because they were trying to cull the herd, basically. A lot of people dumped them into the ocean thinking, I am just freeing the lionfish. They don't have to live in this aquarium anymore. But what they didn't realize is they were taking over the coral reef, killing out all the other fish that lived there. This picture is because there was this one country that actually trained sharks to eat the lionfish, and that's how they got the population under control. So I think that's kind of cool. Then we have oceans, and we are almost done. Yay! Ocean, one of the least productive areas on Earth because too little sunlight to support plant growth other than right on the very edges. Covers nearly 3/4 of the Earth's surface. The oceans are huge. They're important. So many plants and animals have adapted in order to survive in the ocean. Lot of different things covered here. Threats are people, without a doubt. I mean, what else can threaten an ocean? Well, we do overfishing. The way we're doing stuff is destroying it. That's why I use this picture. This is a massive net full of fish. This is your average human male. This should give you an idea on how much fish is being collected in one shot. There is no need for that. They collect so much, and then a lot of it just doesn't even get used. It gets dumped, it's damaged, whatever. And we are overfishing. We are killing our oceans, not just from overfishing, but also polluting. Also, the rising of the temperatures, everything's changing. And talking about pollution, we have the Pacific Trash Gyre or Vortex. It's under different names. It's just when people pollute the rivers, and then it goes down to the ocean, it gets caught up in the cycle, the water cycle, and it's all like collecting. We now actually have an island of garbage. Pretty disturbing. So that's going to be the end of this. I just like to ask something at the end, like what's your favorite biome and that kind of thing. I already told you I love the estuary. I love the ocean. I love all of it, actually. I think it's all fascinating, and different things fascinate me for different reasons. So I just like to know what you think. I didn't cover the littoral forest, and I should probably add that at some point because that one's very interesting as well. I don't know why I haven't put it in yet. I don't know. But anyway, that's it. Hope this was somewhat educational, somewhat entertaining, and feel free to tell me whatever you think if you wish. But yeah, that's it. I'm glad I got this done in time so it'll be ready for when you, bam, start your class. All right. I will be seeing you throughout the semester. You will see many different t-shirts. I will probably almost always look very similar to this because I don't do a whole lot. So that's it, and see you soon. Bye.